I don't give names here, just the year, 2022. Saying anything else feels like an invitation. I'm telling this because it still sits under my skin. I was followed on a long highway in the evening, and whatever followed me wasn't trying to pass. I remember the stretch. Sparse lights, trees pressing close, the yaw of tires on asphalt. I was tired, thinking about nothing in particular. A car came up behind me, headlights steady. It could have passed. It didn't. It stayed, matching my speed, matching my turns like a second shadow. Small things came first. When I tapped the brakes, the light behind me blinked. Not flashes, not a horn, just a tiny cut of light, like a cough. When I drifted to avoid a pothole, the other car drifted the same way, perfectly opposite, as if it were practicing keeping the same distance. I told myself it was another driver being cautious. That lasted until the bridge, where the wind smelled sharp and the metal of the guardrail gleamed under my beams. My rear view reflected a light so close, it lit the scratch on my bumper I never got around to fixing. The hair on my arms rose. I turned off at the next lay-by, a single lamp and a vending machine. I killed the engine and listened. For a few minutes, there was silence. Then, like an actor hitting a cue, the other headlights rolled past the lot and kept going. I laughed at myself. The relief felt ridiculous and loud in the quiet. I was about to leave when my car sputtered. The engine coughed and died. Of course it did. The lot felt colder. My breath fogged in front of me. I tried the key. The engine tried, then died again. I told myself it was a battery, that I'd call for help, that this was minor. But then the lot was filled with light. Not headlights passing a set of lights sitting across from me, level with my car. No engine sound. Just light. I should have locked the doors. Instead, I opened mine. The air smelled of old gasoline and something else I couldn't place. A figure stood between the beams, close enough that light cut across their jacket. I couldn't see a face, just the notion of one. When it spoke, the voice was ordinary, casual, like someone asking for directions. "Car trouble?" it said. "Yeah," I answered. My mouth was dry. It died. "Need help?" I almost agreed. The rational part of me kept inventory keys in pocket, phone charged, watch ticking, but something heavier shaped the moment. The figure moved closer. In that movement, I noticed the wrongness. Limbs that bent a little too smoothly, shoulders that didn't catch light the way a human's do. "I don't know you," I said. It would have been safer to leave that sentence unsaid. The voice laughed softly. "Neither do I." It was a small exchange, the sort you have when you want immediate, ordinary comfort. The figure tilted its head and stepped as if to show me something. The beam caught it, and I saw a face that looked like a mirror of my headlights, eyes reflecting, a mouth that curved with an ease that felt practiced. For a second, it looked like a person. Then it didn't. Fear does strange math. I moved backward, gravel skidding under my shoes. The figure made no sudden move, but when I turned, to run, the distance between us closed like a trapdoor. It reached my car before I could, fingers touching the steel as if testing the temperature. I clattered into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and the lock sounded like a bell. I fumbled the key, turned it, and the engine caught as if someone had decided it could. The other lights blinked and then were gone. The radio filled the space with static and half a song, and my chest tried to slow down. I drove away without looking back, hands numb on the wheel. At home, I checked every camera app, every forum page about that stretch of road. People wrote about late-night drivers and pranksters, but nothing about a shadow that matched you enough to know your lane. No one had footprints in that gravel. No one had pictures. Sometimes I convinced myself it was exhaustion, a face my brain assembled out of roadside shapes. Other nights I replay the tilt of the head and the way the headlights caught those eyes like mirrors. The memory keeps a pattern, a light that follows, a vehicle that waits, a voice that sounds like any help you'd accept, and a face that unravels when you look. I still take that route sometimes, not because I want to test fate, but because avoiding it feels less honest than walking through the memory. When I do, I keep the radio loud, windows up, and the lock solid. I don't answer a voice that's too casual for a stranger at night. And when a single car hugs my bumper and refuses to pass, I drive until the highway gives me civilization again. It happened in 2022. I remember the year because it's one line I can bear. I don't know what it wanted. I only know what it looked like when it smiled like a cut in the dark, and how quickly nothing about the world is guaranteed when headlights decide to study you. I thought the night would be unremarkable. Long stretches of highway have a way of folding time, and I was tired in the way you get when everything is routine. I left in the evening, windows cracked, engine a steady hum. Something crossed the lanes, not a deer too quick, too deliberate. I swerved, heart punching my ribs, and pulled onto the shoulder, hazards blinking like a slowed heartbeat. The air smelled of hot metal and the faint sweetness of late summer. While I checked the tire, I heard slow steps from the grass by the guardrail. A man walked up, jacket, cap, a pack. Ordinary at a glance until you noticed how clean his jacket stayed, how the cap's brim kept his face shaded like a secret. "Everything all right?" he said. His voice had dust in it, like wind through dry leaves. "Hit something," I said. He offered, "Do you want company?" I should have said no. I didn't. Another human there felt like a small lifeline. He climbed into the passenger seat with a quiet I couldn't place. The car filled with a strange, damp smell. He asked ordinary questions at first exit numbers. Work, then small, odd ones. "Do you live alone? Do you sleep with the hall light?" Each question skimmed my skin like a cold finger. After a long pause, he said, "Do you mind if I keep the light on?" I laughed, a thin sound. "It's already on," I said. "Not that light," he said. "The other one. The light at the end of the road." We crested a low rise, and the shoulder of asphalt opened into a patch of brightness. From a distance, it looked like a lamp embedded in the pavement. Up close, it breathed and shimmered, rearranging color until faces blurred like overexposed photographs. My phone died as if the glow swallowed power. The radio stuttered and stopped mid-sentence. The light crept across the hood like oil. He reached for my hand. His skin felt cool and glassy. "You can come," he said. "It looks better when you walk." I wanted to floor it and be gone. Instead, I slowed. Curiosity was a traitor. The car felt sluggish, like driving through syrup. Inside that glow, something moved under the road's surface, shapes like hands, or reflections of hands. He said, "Not everyone gets invited." The words should have been nonsense. Instead, they settled in my chest. Something thudded against the passenger door, like a heavy body. My head snapped back. When I turned, the seat was empty neat, zipped, as if no one had ever sat there. No bag left behind. No footprints in the soft strip of dirt beyond the guardrail. Only the smell ozone and a sweet rot that made my tongue ache. I stumbled out. The asphalt held a faint glare that my phone couldn't capture. There were no marks at the edge of the grass, no scuff, nothing to explain how a person could be there, then gone. I told the police what I could. The clean jacket, the voice like dry leaves, the phrase, "You can come," the light that wasn't a light. They checked the stretch, looked for cameras, found none. They offered tidy words: optical illusion, prank, exhaustion. Those answers folded the night flat, but they didn't remove the weight in my chest when I replayed his face. Afterwards, I checked the car. No mechanical faults. The only odd thing was a faint half-circle abrasion on the passenger door, like something had knocked and been removed. The pack, whatever it had been, was gone. Sleep stopped being peaceful. I'd wake reaching for a weight that wasn't there. I started leaving lights on, saying no to late drives unless someone could come, and keeping the radio loud enough to slice through the quiet. Small rituals became fences I could lock. A month later, a friend sent a pixelated photo of a glow on that highway. People joked. I stayed quiet. I started carrying a tiny LED on my keyring, useless against a wide-open glow, but strangely comforting. I learned to check the passenger seat every time I parked, to smooth the fabric with a ridiculous, superstitious hand. Small gestures, but they make the night feel less like it's choosing for me. I give the date because names and dates anchor memory. It happened on the 5th of September 2022. I don't know what that light wanted, maybe to be seen, maybe company. The highway hands out invitations like candy. Sometimes kindness has teeth. If someone ever asks, "Mind if I ride?" I answer before the sentence finishes. I keep the passenger seat empty, windows up, and the radio loud. If a patch of light appears where it shouldn't, I don't slow to stare. I drive until the road gives me an ordinary sky again. I tell this like it happened to someone I used to be the version that still believed a highway was only a strip of asphalt and a promise. It began as a simple drive. The lines on the road beat under the headlights. A truck passed and left a smear of red. Behind me, a pair of lights settled in my mirror and kept pace. They didn't flash or hover to pass. They chose to ride. I tested it. Speed up. It matched. Slow down. It matched. Let it pass. It didn't. It stayed the exact distance a polite driver keeps too polite to be ordinary. My stomach did small animal things. Maybe it was someone late, tired like me. Maybe not. I pulled into a small lot to shake it off a single lamp, a vending machine humming like it was breathing. The other headlights rolled by without stopping and disappeared. Relief hit me like a laugh. Then, my phone died. The screen went black, like someone had swallowed light. I tried to turn it back on. Nothing. The air around the lot felt thicker, like the night had folded itself over the world. Then there was tapping at the rear glass, soft, rhythmic, a knuckle against the window. I told myself a raccoon, a rock, a falling branch. I checked locks and laughed at how loud my breathing sounded to me. The tapping came again, this time on the passenger side. It matched the beat of my pulse. When I drove off, whatever followed mimicked every choice I made. It kept the same margin, the same patience. At an intersection, the lights behind me did something odd. In the sheen of wet paint, the glow outlined a shape that wasn't a person and wasn't a car. It was negative space, a hole where light looked wrong. I went to the nearest gas station because crowds feel safer. The other vehicle pulled up to the pump beside mine and idled. No one got out. I walked over because walking felt better than being trapped in a car with eyes I couldn't see. The driver's window reflected me and nothing else. No face, no shadow, as if the seat had absorbed its occupant. I rapped a knuckle against the metal. The sound answered with a thin, high pitch that set my teeth on edge. Then the rear lights blinked in a sequence I couldn't place, 3 quick, 1 long like a secret code. My keys vanished. They had been clenched in my fist a second before. I patted pockets, emptied hands, cursed. Around me, people pumped gas, music played, the world continued. The other car stayed, patient and empty. I found the keys later tucked under the mat in the passenger footwell as if someone had slid them there and left. No fingerprints, no scuff. The passenger seat showed a faint impression where fabric lay pressed, then smoothed out. It was like finding evidence of a presence that the rest of the world refused to accept. At home, I checked cameras. They showed me leaving the lot. They showed my car alone. No second vehicle in the feeds. A neighbor swore there had been no car. The blankness that follows is more frightening than witnesses. People offered explanations: tailgater, prank, exhaustion. Those words sit like bandages over a wound. They cover but don't heal. There are details that refuse tidy logic. The way the lights matched my speed. The way the tapping matched my pulse. The precise place the keys turned up. I stopped taking that road at night when I could. When I had to, I kept the radio loud, the windows up, my hands on the wheel like a promise. I put my keys in the bowl by the door at night. Small rituals that make things feel controlled. A week later, I woke with a smell in my nose I couldn't place: old oil and something faintly floral. Under the mat on the passenger side, tucked in a corner, I found a small scrap of something like fabric. It wasn't from any jacket I owned. It held a smear of dust and a single tiny circular mark like the imprint of a button or eye. I don't know what it meant. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. I don't try to decode its language anymore. I only listen for the taps on glass when I'm waiting, and when a pair of lights keeps pace in my mirror, I treat it like a shadow that might have fallen from something heavy. I drive until the highway gives me ordinary lights, and then I forgive myself for breathing. The road is a liar that promises movement, But sometimes it just adds company to the dark, and some company knows how to wait. I don't like telling this. Saying it aloud feels like giving the highway permission to remember me. I pulled into a lay-by to rest. The air tasted like hot metal. I set my phone face down and dozed with the engine idling, because turning it off felt too final. I woke to the smell of wet cloth and the prickle of being watched. A folded photograph lay on the dash. It showed me asleep, head tipped, seatbelt slack. I hadn't felt anyone take it. 3 more photos were tucked beneath the first. Me unlocking the door, me pouring coffee, me checking the mirror. The last image was wrong, the passenger seat filled by a pale suggestion of a body, its edges blurred like it didn't trust light. A figure stepped from the dark carrying a small bundle. Up close, their skin looked thin, as if light could pass through. They didn't speak. They handed me the bundle and watched as I opened it. Inside were hundreds of photographs, each one a private moment. My hand on the wheel, my keys under a mat, my reflection in the rear view with a pale face leaning close. The collection wasn't random. It was a log. "Who are you?" I asked. "Someone who keeps records," they said. "Someone who watches the road." Their shoes didn't mark the gravel. The way they moved suggested practice. "Why me?" "Because you sleep where others stand watch," they answered. The images made me feel small and exposed. I drove home and spread them on the table, searching for a clue. There was no signature, only a pattern. The little choices I made that invited observation. That night, I found another photo under my pillow. In it, I was awake and smiling. In the rear view behind me, a head leaned in as if to speak. I had not smiled when I fell asleep. I set up a camera by the window and drove the stretch again. The footage showed me parking, getting out, the lamppost. Frame by frame, there was a pale smear crossing the edge, a presence that blurred like heat over asphalt. I didn't tell the police. The images felt like evidence of something that didn't obey paperwork. I told a friend who said, "Burn them." I almost did, but pictures, once looked at, echo differently than ashes. They sit. The twist came slowly. Mixed with photos of me were images of empty road reflectors, a lone car at the verge, a driver's side door open. In one, a figure sat in the doorway looking at the camera. The posture in that doorway matched the slump I get when I'm tired. It suggested not a stranger watching me, but someone mapping my habits by standing where I stand. I changed the small things the photos loved. Different exits, different songs, doors shut a different way. The ritual comforted me, but didn't stop the surprise. Sometimes a photograph would appear, slipped into a book or under a coaster. They were always warm, as if deposited minutes before. They smelled like rain on hot asphalt. Each one caught a small private thing, a freckle on my thumb, the crease where my jacket folded, the exact slump of my shoulder when I'm tired. They made me feel exposed. I waited at the next lay-by, thinking I'd catch the person who left them. Hours passed. A car rolled in. Someone walked under the lamppost and kept walking. No footprints remained in the gravel. After that, I checked the passenger seat every time I parked. I changed small habits. Different exits, different radio stations, keys kept where I could see them. Rituals became fences. Still, photographs appeared in odd places under a seat mat, slipped into a book. One showed the highway empty and my car at the verge with the door open. In the doorway sat a figure whose shoulders matched my own slump. The image felt deliberate, like a log of attention. I didn't go to the police. Paper can be dismissed. I told a friend who said to burn them. I almost did, but looking had already altered me. When you are observed enough, you begin to move in the patterns someone else expects. Now I sleep with the radio on and the passenger seat empty, but checked. I vary the small things that pictures love. It helps, but it doesn't stop the surprise when another photograph appears, warm and folded, on the dashboard. Who sits beside me when I rest? I don't know. I only know that some company watches patiently, cataloging the tiny choices that make a life readable. They wait for the moment you relax, the second your eyes close, and then they take a picture. The pictures keep finding their way home. The highway has a way of teaching you what silence really means. No crickets, no engines passing, no wind moving the trees. Just the hum of your own tires and the thought that maybe you're the only person left awake in the world. I was driving through one of those silences when I saw the first shoe. It lay in the middle of the lane, worn down at the heel, the laces curled like a question mark. I swerved, glanced in the mirror, and thought, unlucky drop. People lose things on highways all the time. Then came the second shoe, a different size, a different style, lying 100 feet ahead, turned outward like it was pointing me forward. I slowed, but curiosity tugged harder than caution. By the time I saw the third, I was crawling at a pace that made me feel like prey. The shoes continued, some small, some heavy, some bright, some nearly rotted. They made a trail along the center of the asphalt, guiding me deeper into a stretch of highway I didn't remember being on. My GPS froze. The bars on my phone vanished. Finally, I saw the owner. Or at least, I thought it was. A figure stood on the shoulder, arms at their sides, barefoot. Their posture was strange, head tilted, chest lifted like they were smelling the air. The lamp above flickered and went out as I passed. I wanted to speed away. Instead, I slowed, rolled down the window, and called, "Are you okay?" The figure's head turned sharply. Not slowly, not with curiosity. Sharply, like a bird hearing a threat. I saw its face, or I didn't. Where features should have been, there was blur, like heat distortion rising off the pavement. The lack of a face didn't stop it from smiling. Somehow, I knew it was smiling. It stepped forward. I hit the gas. The trail of shoes blurred under my headlights. I told myself not to look back, but mirrors have their own gravity. When I glanced, the figure wasn't standing anymore. It was running, barefoot, impossibly fast, keeping pace with my car. My chest froze. I pushed harder on the accelerator. The speedometer climbed. The running figure kept up, arms pumping, head tilted like it was listening to something inside me. At one point, it was close enough that its blur brushed the passenger window. The glass fogged from the outside, as if breath pressed against it. Then, suddenly, it stopped. I didn't see it fall behind. One blink, it was there. The next, the road was empty. No more shoes. Just ordinary pavement stretching out ahead. I didn't stop driving until the highway spat me back onto a familiar exit. My hands ached from how tightly I'd gripped the wheel. When I parked at home, my passenger seat wasn't empty. A single shoe sat there, muddy, damp, not mine. Its laces curled like the first one I had seen. I carried it outside, dropped it in the trash, and locked the bin shut. I told myself it was a trick of adrenaline, an object I had misremembered, some innocent explanation. But the next morning, the shoe wasn't in the bin. It was back in the passenger seat, neatly placed, the mud dried to powder. I tried everything, threw it in a river, buried it, burned it. Each time, it came back, always in the same spot beside me, as if someone invisible had buckled it in for the ride. Eventually, I stopped touching it. I drive with it there now. A quiet passenger. The air sometimes smells like damp cloth, and the windows fog in patterns I can't explain. At first, I was terrified. Now I treat it like routine. The way you'd live with a scar, you don't like it, but you adapt. What unsettles me most isn't the shoe anymore. It's the sound I hear on long stretches of road. Somewhere below the hum of tires, in the hush of an empty night, there's a faint rhythm. A slap against pavement, the unmistakable cadence of bare feet running just beyond the edge of the light. The shoes were never just lost belongings. They were warnings, breadcrumbs, evidence of others who had slowed when they shouldn't have, looked when they shouldn't have, spoken when silence was safer. Now, when I drive, I don't stop for anything in the road, not even if it looks like a person, because I know that silence has a weight, and sometimes the highway is listening. And if I ever see another shoe lying in my lane, I won't follow. I'll speed up. I'll leave it behind, because one passenger is already more than enough.